Welcome to this Vue Query Builder tutorial. In this video, I will show you how to customize the Syncfusion Vue Query Builder component by using templates. I will explain how to leverage templates to create custom headers, columns, and rules in the Vue Query Builder. First, I open my existing Vue application where I have added the Query Builder component with rules and columns. To learn how to integrate the Query Builder component into a Vue application, check out the Getting Started video linked in the card above and the description below. Let me run this application by using the npm run dev command. The Query Builder is rendered with the defined rules. Next, let me show you how to customize the header by using templates. I will change this button group to a drop-down list and add separate buttons to add groups and conditions. In the Query Builder, I add the template tag. Within it, I add a division element and set a class name so that I can apply specific CSS styles to this container. I add another division element with a class name to align the group header. I add the code of the drop-down list component with a CSS class name. To learn more about adding the drop-down list, refer to the link provided in the description below. I bind the ID property with a string value that contains the rule ID from the data object and the suffix text condition. To get the data object, I use the v slot with data props. This allows me to get the rule ID and generate the condition ID dynamically. I set the vModel directive with the condition from the data object to two-way bind the condition to this drop-down list component. I bind the data source to a property. In the data method, I define the group header operator items property with key and value pairs for the operators. Similarly, I bind the fields to a property. I define the group header operator fields property with an object with the properties text and value. This should match the key and value properties in the data source. In the drop-down list, bind the change event with an event handler. In the methods property, implement the condition change method by receiving a parameter. Within it, call the Query Builder's notify change method by passing the events value element and string value condition. This will programmatically notify the Query Builder of a condition change when the drop-down list component selection changes. In the Query Builder, bind the header template property with the defined template name as a string value. In the script tag, I define the styles for the custom group button element span element. I have set the maximum width, border radius, and width. Lastly, I define padding and height for the custom group button. Now you can see the drop-down list component is there instead of the button group to change conditions. Next, let me add 3 button components to perform the add group, add condition, and delete group actions. Within the group header division element, I add another division element and set the class as header so that I can align the button components to the top right side of the Query Builder component. Within it, I add another division element and set a class name so that I can set styles for the 2 buttons. Within it, I add a button component with an ID CSS class and the content add group. To learn more about adding the button component, refer to the link provided in the description below. To perform the add operation when this button is clicked, I bind the click event with an event handler. I implement the group button click method, receiving an object with a property named target. I get the target parent group ID by using the target parameters ID and splitting it based on underscores to get the first index value. This is because the ID will be separated with underscores, and the second value will be the group ID. Call the Query Builder's addGroups method and pass an array of objects with properties, conditions, and rules. I just pass an empty rule. I pass the target parent group ID so that this new group will be associated with its parent group. Similarly, I add another button component to perform the add condition action. I bind the click event with the rule button click listener name. I implement the rule button click method, receiving an object with a property named target. I get the target parent group ID. I call the Query Builder's addRules method and pass an array with an empty object, and then pass the target parent group ID as the second parameter. To perform the delete group action, I add a button component with an ID CSS class and the content delete group. I should not allow the initial group to be deleted because that is the root group. So to avoid rendering this button for the initial group, I write a condition that the rule ID should not equal the initial group ID. I bind the click event with the onDelete group button click event handler name. I implement the method by receiving the target. I call the Query Builder's delete group method and pass the closest element to the target that matches the group container selector. This statement will delete the group from the Query Builder component and the related elements from the DOM. I import the closest function from the J2 base package. In the script tag, I define the styles for the header division element to float right. For the header content, I have set the display and padding properties. Also, I customize the add group, condition button background, and hover colors. Now you can see the buttons to add groups and conditions. I add a group. You can see the condition is or, and an empty rule is provided. You can see the delete group button is available only for the child group, not for the root group. I can delete the child group. Also, I can add a condition by using the button. Now let me show you how to customize the column by using a template. I will show you how to add a drop-down list to select the title of courtesy instead of entering it in a text box. In the Query Builder, I add a template tag. Within it, I add a drop-down list component with a data source composed of a collection of salutations. I set the vModel with the data object's rule value. To get the data object, I use the vSlot with data props. I bind the change event with the onTitle change event handler name. I implement the method by receiving a parameter. I call the Query Builder's notifyChange method by passing the event's item data value and the event's element. This will programmatically notify the Query Builder of a condition change when the drop-down list component's selection changes. In the title of courtesy column property, I bind the template property with the column template name. Now you can see the provided salutations in the drop-down list. I can select any of them. Next, let me show you how to customize a rule by using a template. I will show you how to provide only two operators using a radio button and country names in a drop-down list for the country field. In the Query Builder, I add a template tag. I add a division element with a class name to align the rule filter. To list the fields, I add the code for the drop-down list component with the data source, fields, and value. I use the vSlot with data props to get the data object. I bind the change event with an event handler. Implement the field change method by receiving a parameter. Within it, I call the Query Builder's notify change method by passing the events value element and the string value field. Next, let me add 2 radio buttons for selecting the operators. In the template, I add code related to the radio buttons. I have added a component to select the equal and not equal operators. To learn more about adding the radio button component, refer to the link provided in the description below. I bind the change event with the operator change event handler name for both radio buttons. I implement the operator change method by receiving a parameter. Within it, I call the Query Builder's getRule method to set the new operator. I can get the new value from the operator args parameter. This will programmatically set the operator for the rule at runtime. Now I add code to render a drop-down list component that displays the country names. I have added 4 country names and mapped the fields. I bind the change event with the value change event handler name. I implement the value change method by receiving a parameter. Within it, I call the Query Builder's notify change method by passing the events value element and the string value. Next, let me add code to render a delete button. I am using the built-in styles for the delete button. Now, all the needed components for the rule related to the country field are created. In the country column, I bind the rule template with the created template name. You can see the country field has only 2 operators, and the country names are displayed in a drop-down list. Let me summarize this video. I have shown you how to create custom headers, columns, and rules in the Syncfusion Vue Query Builder component. You can download the example in this video from the GitHub link in the description below. I have also included a link where you can check if you're eligible for our community license, which gives you a free license key for our entire Vue suite. If you found this video useful, click the like button and subscribe to our channel to get notifications about new videos. Thanks for watching.